Now, if you've clicked on this video because you want to know all about how to catch fish on a simple carp maggot feeder, getting to that time of year where conditions can be against you, the fish are further out in the lake, and the best way to catch these fish is with a maggot feeder. So I'm here today on Weir at Weston Pools. As you can see, the conditions are far from ideal for fishing, say, a waggler or getting out into the middle of the lake with keeping your line tight like that. So the best, most effective way of fishing is with a maggot feeder. So what I'm going to do, Preston have brought out a new set of feeders, so they're much easier to load, and you can manipulate how you can feed some pegs, how you can feed your pegs. You can put some maggots in, you can put some ground bait in, stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is jump on the box, just go through the setup because it's dead simple, and then just try and put a fish or two in the net for you. So let's get on the box, see how we get on. Right, so just sat on the peg now. Now I've chose to sit on peg 17. The reason because it's got a nice feature in front of you, an aerator. I've seen a few fish moving around here as well, but also it's middle of the lake. That's sort of key sort of thing with fishing with this sort of style, is just you can get more fish in the middle of the lake. Don't be wrong, if there's fish up the top end, then you're going to catch them, but just for a safe option, if you are coming on like a pleasure session and just trying to get a few bites, then it's going to be the best place to start. Now for this, dead simple, dead effective setup, you don't need much, you just need it in your armoury though, because it's a great winter tactic. So first of all, I've just got a 10-foot Superior Super Light. It's nice and soft because you catch anything from like eyed up to skimmers, even carp as well. You can get everything in on this. And then a 420 Centris SD, just with £6 line. Just tone it down a little bit. You don't need your £8 line, you don't need your robustness. Just literally, I just put £6 on for the winter because you're not really fishing that much of it as well. Well, I don't find I do anyway. And then literally the terminal end where you're going to need, just got a nice and simple carp maggot feeder there, running on the line, just to stop it going for any further. Then just a short section of probably like 2.5 inches, 3 inches of twizzle boom. So all you do is just twizzle the line opposite ways, so it creates a twizzle. So all it does is keeps that hook length away from catching against the swivel and the attachment there. So it just kicks it off nice there. And I've just literally starting off on a 50cm hook length of 013 power line to a size 16 SFL, just nice and light because I've got 2 maggots on. And like I said, I'm fishing for fish which I don't know what I'm going to hook. I might hook a skimmer, I might hook an eyed, I might hook a carp. So I want a hook which is not going to obviously be too heavy for them smaller fish, but not obviously, I don't want to go too light, so I might lose my carp and stuff. So simply just got some tub of maggots, and all I'm going to do is, I haven't chucked in yet, you can either fish one or two ways of this. So if you feel like the fish is going to be hard, where you don't want to build a swim, and you don't want not a lot of bait, but a bait in an area where you just want like little piles of maggots everywhere, just trying to pick off odd fish, then I wouldn't look to clip up. But because I feel like I want to build a little area in a short session, I've clipped up just to the right of the aerator, and I'm going to try and hit the same mark. I've just gone in line with peg 7, so I'm going to try and hit the same mark every single time, try and build that little area up, try and build some fish feed, and hopefully we get some quick bites. So just going to slip on 2 maggots on the hook, and I'm going to fill my feeder up. Now, size of my feeder, if I do feel like the fish are grubbing around and eating a few and I need to put a little bit more in, I've got a medium as well. But for now, just going to start off on a small, get some bait in the peg. So I've got some ground bait as well. The beauty of these new feeders is they don't load from the top. So what I mean by that is you don't load them by taking the top of the cap off. Literally, you can turn them, swivel them, and that's the best. Or you can load them that way. So that just gives you an option. You can leave the window open. You can leave the window open so you can plug it with ground bait if you want to draw little clouds. So if I feel like, obviously this lake's quite clear at the minute, so I feel like if you want to draw a couple of fish off the bottom and try and draw them into your peg, then obviously that little cloud's going to be really important. Now the thing is with this, it might not be instant, there might not be some fish feeding, but the more and more we chuck, not too regular, so you don't chuck loads and loads of bait everywhere, but the more and more we chuck, the more and more bait we've got on the bottom, with fish grubbing around, hopefully you can find our hook bait, pick it out and get some nice bites and some quality fish. Now what I mean by this sort of swivel is because with the opening and how you go to load them, there's a hole or a hatch. So obviously you fill your bait up there and you just literally twist, and obviously it closes it off. So if I wanted to, it's like effectively like a little window feeder if I wanted, or I can close it up and add my maggots that way. So if I needed to, I can put my maggots in there, get my medium one, put my maggots in there, then put a little bit of ground bait. Like I said, it'll just disperse on the top as it hits the water. It'll just blow out the feeder. Obviously creates a little bit of attraction and just a little bit different way of feeding. Now there's a couple of sizes in sort of the ranges as well. So we've got the small ones. There's 12 gram and 20 gram. So if you want to be a bit more stealthy, you can use a 12 gram. I'll just use a 20 out there just because it's a little punch. It's not too far. It's not hard to cast out, but I just want to make sure I get there. Last thing I want to do is put a 2 light feeder on. Is try and chuck it out there and it just sort of like bows to the left or right just because it's not the right weight. Now these are designed to help you cast as well because the weight's obviously on the bottom. They're not on the side like the ones I used last year, which are big like sort of river feeders. They're at the bottom, so they cast like a dart, straight as a die. So if you use the right size feeder, then you can make your life a lot easier. So if you're fishing a shorter chuck like 20 metres, I'd probably use a smaller one. But if you were chucking where I am today, then the 20 grams is sort of like the ideal range. It's not too loud, so not when I crash it in. When it goes in, it's not crashing in like a massive house brick, it's just plopping in. But sometimes I think that little plop as well helps keep them fish in the area and they get inquisitive about it, so I think it does help. So you just got to build your peg up. It's not sort of like chuck it out straight away and it's gone woof straight around, but what you tend to find, this maggot feeder normally is sort of like more effective on these days where it's a bit gusty, it's a bit windy, it's a bit overcast, just because the fish will feed a little bit more aggressive. Now I caught on a match last week, I drew like 2 pegs down and I don't feel like I'd have caught many fish on a maggot feeder because everything was sort of like satin balls and the conditions were perfect for a waggler. But today, if you tried to fish a waggler properly today, it's going to start moving through, you're going to have to fish heavier wagglers, you're not going to get the same presentation which you want. But with this maggot feeder, obviously you can build a little area. If there's a few feeding fish about, you're going to target them that way and just try and catch them. Now hook bait wise, I've just gone for 2 maggots, just nice and simple, but I wouldn't be scared to put like 3 or 4 on. If I feel like the fish are picking out a big visual bait, I wouldn't be too scared to sort of change my hook baits and try and put a little bit bigger hook bait on. Now you could put a little bit bigger hook on if you feel like you are fishing for carp and you feel like you need to fish bigger baits. Depending on your venue you go to, you'll find that varies, but for now I've just gone with a simple 2 maggot on my hook. It's that first cast, we've not had one straight away there, so I don't want to just sit on this straight, not on this, hope it goes round. I want to try and build my peg up. So just get a pinch of maggots, fill my maggots up. It's probably like 15 to 20 maggots you can get in there. Make sure everything's nice. So it's nice and keep everything nice and direct. Just get that line sunk. It's a little bit too tight, so the sort of like the tension on the tip, I just want a nice little bend in it, not too much. I've got a nice like tip in, a 3/4 ounce tip, so I think with these rods you get to 1/2 ounce, 3/4 an ounce and an ounce tip, so just gone for the middle one. Say I'm looking to build a peg, so obviously I'm not going to stay on to all the time with thingy, but hopefully we can get a few bites, so it's just nice and simple. Got a bit of ground bait there as well. Hey up, there's the first one. So look at that, second chuck. Look at that, beautiful. So what I want to do is just keep everything nice and low. Let the rod sort of like do the work. So see that there, that was a proper like, just literally towed round, straight away. So like I say, obviously I'm sat on the lake on my own and I know that I know there's fish in the area because I can see sort of like bubbles and movement, but I'm surprised that went so quickly. I was just going to say, you just need to be nice and patient, but second chuck it's gone. Now if we start getting some bites, that's when we can start playing around with stuff, so maybe put a bigger feeder on in a minute, just to put a bit of ground bait in, see if I can draw any fish up, or draw any fish into the peg. It's just something a little bit different than just putting maggots in all the time. But it feels like a good fish, this one. That's the beauty of these soft rods. Oh yeah, it's a nice carp, that. See, that's what we want. You imagine this on a cold day. One thing you have got to be careful of with that ground bait is not to put it in too regular, just because the fish might get preoccupied and not want to go down and eat your loose feed. Remember, you are fishing with maggots, so that's going to be the thing. You want the fish to eat them, but take your time with this because it is a nice fish. So I've just got 0.13 hook length on. I don't want to try and bully him. Got a really, really soft rod. Clutch is set nice and ticking away. You can imagine. So I always find like the maggot feeder, you're trying to build your peg. Like I said, there's two Asian fish that you can either chuck and chance it, which sounds a bit thingy, but you can just chuck it around, try and say if you're only fishing for 10 fish, or even less sometimes, you can just be nice and patient and chuck it in different spots. But I feel like today's like today, where the wind's just catching the lake in the middle. Catching the lake in the middle, and there's an odd fish grubbing around. You can sort of like tell a bit more movement on the lake. I've been on there twice and I feel like there's obviously an odd fish feeding now, and you can tell by that bite it was just literally whoop, ta-da, it's round. So just take my time with it. There's all them little fundamentals you need to get right, like make sure you got the right size feeder on. Your rig's nice and simple, so your feeder's not tangling and catching. But you get all them simple things right, and it's a deadly tactic. There we go, there it is. Look at that nice little mirror, so they're like what you want. So they're your beauties. Look at that. You can imagine in a match, that's a sort of like Brucey bonus, that one. Look at that. Nice carp on the maggot feeder. Ooh, try not to drop him. Get him unhooked. We say, like, you wouldn't think that 0.13 sort of like tackle, you can get fish like that out on it, but chuck him back. But yeah, that is a nice little start on the maggot feeder there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do it just to see. I haven't got really long, so I'm just going to pop a different size feeder on and put a little bit of ground bait in, just to see if we can draw like a skimmer or an F1 or something a little bit different. So it's the beauty of it. A little quick change, waggler link. A little bit bigger feeder, so a medium feeder, so it's a little bit bigger. So all I'm going to do is just load it up with some maggots. Load some maggots in, and I'm just going to thumb in some ground bait, just so. Now the ground bait is quite overwet, it's quite sticky and stodgy, just because I don't want it to linger around in the upper layers, so it's a little, effectively it's a little window feeder now. So you imagine that now. A little bit of a cloud, just puts it in. Like next chuck, I'm not going to do it every single chuck, but just gives me a little different way of feeding. Obviously, F1s and skimmers love ground bait. Carp not so much, just because I feel like they either like single hook baits or a little bit, but especially skimmers and F1s, they're attracted to a bit of ground bait. And this ground bait I've got today is just literally F1 dark. I've been using this a lot more in the winter. I like the colour now, I like the darkness of the colour. I'm really a fan of sweet things in the winter. I just feel like it gives you a little bit of an edge just in feeding now. Don't get me wrong, when I'm fishing pellets and stuff for newer fish, I feel like Super Crush Expander is perfect for that, because obviously it's crushed pellet. It's what the fish are tuned into and eating, and when they are eating pellets, I think that outscores an F1 dark. But what I've found is, especially on this lake, fishing a bit of overwet F1 dark, it just brings everything into your peg, like the skimmers, your F1s. I've even had carp on it when they were feeding. So just gives you a little bit of confidence. And it's one of them things where I'm going to the matches now thinking, right, I need to fish. I need to take a little bit of F1 dark. Now, next to nothing, I'm talking like probably 250ml of ground bait. So you're not talking a lot of bait, but you just bring in, it just gives you a little bit of something. You can overwet it, you can feed it a bit loose, you can put a bigger ball in, you can put a smaller ball in. And obviously when you're fishing with this maggot feeder, it's not all about just chucking in maggots and hoping they just crawl out and you get an odd bite like that. You can obviously manipulate it a certain way now as well, obviously, because the way the window works. Now for me, length of hook length, I'm not going to sit here and say I know exactly this is the right hook length for this situation. I don't, because I don't really do this fishing a lot. But I feel, depending on the fishing is, so if the fish are a bit more aggressive, I'd probably want my hook bait a little bit closer to my feeder, just because I feel like if them maggots are crawling out, this is what I'm thinking about. If them maggots are crawling out, them fish are going to be straight on it. But if it's like I said, if you're dropping around for an odd fish, sometimes you can find, especially in the winter, the fish are just a little bit wary of any bait on the bottom. So what I've been finding when I've been dobbing up here, I've had a lot of weights dobbing, but what I've been finding is the fish are really, really wary of bait on the bottom. So even if if you're not fishing an area or a catcher there, they won't want to go near it. This is nice bit of rain. So I feel like obviously the harder it is, the longer your hook length, the better it is, the shorter your hook length. But that, for just a nice little starting point, 50cm hook length, I don't think you can go far wrong with that. It's probably a bit in between sort of thing. You can play around, obviously you can shorten it. If you need to make a longer one, then you can make a longer one. But I'd probably say like, I maybe make a 3-foot tail hook length if I was making a few up, and then you've got a little bit of an option then. The last thing you want is just to make them all 12-inch and that's it. You can't go any further or have them any longer. So I'd probably make a few hook lengths up. You need next to nothing. You need probably 10, and it'll probably last you most of the winter, to be honest. Just because you're not catching loads and loads of fish on them. But I just feel like if you put them 3-foot, you can obviously, if you feel like them harder days, you can put 2 maggots on and chuck past and be a bit more patient. Or on them better days, you can shorten them right down and probably have them like, say, 10 or 12-inch, straight in the danger zone. It's like you chuck it in, you can get one straight away. But depending on how fish are feeding, I know a lot of the time with this sort of method, it's not, I'd expect quick bites when the fish were feeding. They'd be straight on it, their maggots crawl out probably a lot quicker than you think as well. And especially with these new carp feeders, they've got bigger holes, so the bait can get out a little bit easier, so you can get your bait into your peg a little bit quicker. But also what you can find is sometimes you might find F1s, they do linger in your peg. So where you're going to be chucking, it's not going to be like 18 inches deep where the fish are going to move into your peg. A lot of the time you're going to be fishing in 4, 5, 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot sometimes plus in your peg. So that to me says fish can linger in your peg, and if they see something falling through the water and your feeder hits the bottom and your maggots are still coming down nice and slow, a lot of the time you probably get a few bites tightening up as well. That's what I've found when I've been talking to people and stuff about it. So obviously timing your bites as well, you can obviously have a little stopwatch, try and time your bites, see how you're going to get on, see if you can get little patterns and stuff. But say you're just trying to build your peg up. Now I'm probably thinking, yeah, I've had that carp first go, which to me probably says the right thing. There's probably an odd carp there, but the more and more bait I put in the bottom, the more and more feed. It's getting to the time of day now where I'm going to catch an odd fish feeding because it's getting later in the day. So I need to get a little bit of bait on the bottom. And once I do get a little bit of bait on the bottom and a few fish grubbing around, I feel like I'll probably get a few more indications, because I've had hardly any there. I just had a little indication, then it went round. So I get a few more indications, a few more fish in the peg grubbing around, and obviously Once you get that, you can obviously start to build your peg. You can, like I said, you can put a little bit of ground bait in, you can put your maggots in, you can try and vice versa. I've just tried to just have a little chuck on that ground bait to see if it does make a little bit of difference, see if I can draw any fish in a little bit quicker. But also it gives you that something edge that people might not do. One thing in match fishing is key, is just trying to get a little edge, trying to get one step in front of the opposition, just because everyone can do the same thing, everyone can get the same information, everyone can chuck it out, the maggot feeder, 20 maggots. Why would the fish be in your peg if you've got 10 maggots when the next guy next to you's got 10 maggots? That just comes down to the lottery of the pegs then. But if you can obviously draw a couple more fish off them by just being a bit more savvy with your ground baits, having a chuck on ground bait, they won't know you've done that. A lot of people don't take notice of stuff like that, or they won't even see you do it. So if you can put a little bit of ground bait in, you might catch an odd skimmer, you might catch an odd... Now don't get me wrong, the skimmers in this lake are really good. They're like £1+ fish. Easy, probably £1.5 average. And if you can catch 10 of them without people thinking, you've got £15, which on hard days it is hard to pull that back. So what I don't want to do is just sit there. Now I can obviously manipulate how much I want to fill this as well. I've got a medium on, so I'm not going to fill it to the brim. Just want to get enough bait out there. I'm going to slide it round this time. Enough bait out there to try and obviously get some fish in. So just keep it in that same little spot. Sink my line. I'm not going to go tightening it up straight away, just let it all sink. Get it in position. Hopefully we just have a nice fish to end on. A couple of fish on the maggot feeder. As one thing I will say is though, because the way these are designed, obviously there's lots of holes in them, the way they can spin round, so obviously you can really fast, easy load and just spin round. Nice little swivel on top so you can obviously get it onto your line nice and quickly, but I want to stress enough, I feel like really important is the weight of them. So picking the right weight, so obviously that 20 grammer, because I'm chucking probably, I don't know what it is there, 25 metres, no, it's not 30 metres. It's probably like 25 odd metres, something like that, I want to say. It's not too far, 26, 27, if you want to be fussy. It's not too far, it's just like a little gentle lob, but I feel like if you were to fish a 12 there and there's a little crosswind, it's just, I'd want these direct as I can to where I'm fishing, because obviously you're trying to build an area, you're trying to build a swim. If you were plopping it around, then a lighter one might be a little bit better, but then I'd want to be in connection with my feeder all the time. So just having the right sort of scenarios. So say if I was chucking like 20 odd metres or up to an island, or smaller chucks, like smaller snake lakes that are like 14 to 18 metres, 20 metres wide, then I probably would look to use a 12 gram, which is that one. Nice and dinky, obviously the weight's forward so it casts nice and easy, but these sort of lakes with the open waterway, you want to be nice and accurate. I want to be like a foot off that little post every single time where I'm chucking. I don't want to be straight in front of the aerator, because I don't feel like the fish live there anyway. I feel like they live in the middle of the lake and then sometimes they drift over. But I want to make sure I'm nice and accurate and casting straight in line with peg 7 every single time, just because obviously I can be on the money, build my peg up. So obviously you see bites aren't frantic. I haven't just chucked in, it's going around every single chuck. So I'm going to have to work at this longer. Keep bites coming. There's a little sign there. Keep bites coming, trying to work at it, trying to get fish in the peg and trying to make the most of the opportunities. So it might take a little while to build sort of like fish that I want to catch. So say like your F1s, your little stocky carp, your skimmers, your hide. It might take a little bit of bait. You've only had three casts. Obviously you've had a nice carp as well. So it's just about reading your peg, seeing what the best thing to do is for what you're fishing for. So for me, if I was fishing for an odd carp, then yeah, I would probably dot it around and try and search for the fish a little bit more. But because I'm trying to build an area, I'm trying to catch feeding fish such as skimmers, F1s, hide, little stockier carp. Because when I come and did a maggot feeder video last year, which obviously the older style feeders, which were like plastic, much bigger, sort of like fishing for river fish basically. But obviously now with the carp feeders, they're obviously designed for these commercials, obviously to make casting a lot easier, loading your feeder a lot easier. So I thought it'd be good to come back, just get a little set up, and it's probably a nice time of year to do it because the bites are hard to come by at this time of year. You do need to draw on a few fish, you need to be on the right methods at the right time, but there is certain methods like this maggot feeder which can play a part. Now, I messed up on peg 7 across from me over there on a recent festival, which was like start of December. Obviously I forgot my rods, but this is one tactic which I feel like would have caught me 3 or 4 fish, which it did for the fellow either side. They did catch an odd fish on it, but I never had a bite for 2 hours. Now if I just literally set my stall out 20 odd metres, plopped a little feeder in, took the chances, and just was nice and patient to build a little area up, I would have caught 3 or 4 fish, and obviously that would have bumped me up in the frame a little bit more. I think I'd have been 4th overall or something. So that is what on one of my vlogs, my December, I think it was a festival vlog catch up I did. But that's the thing with this sort of fishing, like I'm not really getting loads and loads of signs, which I feel like it's a good thing because there might not be any fish in the peg yet, or they might not be trying to grub round on the feeder. So there we go. I'm going to end on this one because it's been a little bit harder to catch him, but look at that. So that's the one thing I want to say is like the fundamentals of it. Just keep it nice and tight, keep it going in, and you will, once you start build that bed of bait up, start to get a few signs, indications. Obviously it's not fast frantic fishing, but what is in the middle of January, but it's really important. I wonder what it is. That's going to be a silverfish, isn't it? Yeah, it's being eyed. So that's the thing. If you think you can catch, you've had 2 fish there, one's an eyed, one's a carp, but you think fish like that, great weight builders, and you imagine them fish coming in now. If I chuck in again and catch an odd eyed, an odd skimmer, and any fish that are coming through the peg, obviously is going to give any other fish more confidence to obviously get my hook bait. So I'm going to keep on the little chuck, but that's the Carp Maggot Feeder from Preston, brand new. Obviously run a few things through with you, how to set it up, the reasons why I set it up like that, which ones to use, sort of the tackle you need, how the process of trying to think and go about trying to catch the fish. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.